This is a make or break season for Shane Beamer, and he knows it just as much as we all do. I don't care when coaches go out there and say things like, oh, this is just another year. We're just trying to develop the team. We're trying to be the best that we can be. All of those things. Look at what Mike Norvell's been saying the last couple of years. That's just general coach speak. These guys aren't stupid. They're the ones who are having the conversation with administration, with donors, and everybody else whose job is in their hands. They know exactly what's going on. So Shane Beamer acted in this offseason as if everything was on fire and he needs to figure out how to save his job. Specifically, he knows that everything's on fire with the offensive line and has been on fire with the offensive line. So what did we do? We essentially took the whiteboard and we wiped it clean of everything that is offensive line. We no longer have the same offensive coordinator. We have a new offensive line coach, and we have an entirely new offensive line as far as roster goes. Turned that completely over and got everybody in from the transfer portal. So now we've got Kendall Briles in as our offensive coordinator. He's been able to put some great offenses on the field in his time as coordinator, specifically recently at TCU. You got Randy Clements coming in as offensive line coach. He's had time, plenty of time under the Briles system to understand how that scheme is going to be ran. He's also been able to put some great offensive lines out on the field at various colleges because it seems like he's been a little bit of everywhere throughout his tenure. He knows what he's doing. Clements does, and Kendall Briles does. And I truly believe that Shane Beamer knows what he's doing as well. I don't think Shane Beamer has tried to go into the last couple of seasons and been like, oh, well, offensive line, maybe it's going to be a struggle, maybe it's not, but we'll see whenever we get there. I think this has been something that is like a monster under his bed, keeping him up at night, trying to figure out how do we figure out the offensive line problem. And I think it's been the exact same thing with South Carolina fans as well, because you know what you have. You know that you have the type of roster where the offensive line doesn't even need to be elite. They just need to be good. They need to be a step above serviceable. And recently they've been 3 steps below that in the just plain old bad category. So Shane Beamer knows that that's the difference between him being a winning football program and him being a losing football program. That's why we've made the changes that we have in this offseason. And if we just get the O-line up to par, we've got the weapons everywhere else to help us to win football games. You got to think, you got Lenoris Sellers coming back for another year. Everyone's been hyping him up since his freshman year of what he can be, and maybe he hasn't taken those development steps that you would want him to take so far. The problem is he's got all of a second and a half to figure out how to read a defense and throw a football before somebody's in his face ready to sack him. We've got Nick Harbor out wide, so a big weapon to get out, and he's able to usually shake some defenders and find a way to get open. You've also got Nitro Tuggle coming in, big name in recruiting a couple of years ago, went to Georgia, went to Purdue, produced really well there. Now you got him coming in to be another weapon outside. Again, if this O-line can just stand up and give him a few seconds to read a defense and throw a football, this offense could be going places. On the defensive side, there's no questions that I really have at all. You got Dylan Stewart coming back for another year. You got Fred Johnson coming in with some really great production last year at linebacker. Peyton Williams coming in at safety. Really, you've got the playmakers everywhere else besides your offensive line to make a difference on this team. So the offensive line just has to be normal. They have to be average, maybe a slight step above average because you're playing in the SEC. Here's where the real problem lies. And it's the same problem that it feels like we have with South Carolina kind of consistently. It's your schedule. Your schedule, you do start the season with Kent State, Towson, Mississippi State, at Alabama, and Kentucky. Of those, you should have a 4-1 start. Kentucky, you're playing them at home. It's going to be early in the year. New coaching staff, new quarterback, completely new team. They should have to be figuring a whole lot more out than you do. So I'm going to write you down for a 4-1 start. The problem is, basically every single game after that, including Arkansas, because you're at Arkansas and just weird things happen on the road in the SEC, every single game after that is not a gimme win. You have 0 gimmies after your first 5 games. So even though you start 4-1, if you just start dropping game after game after game here, team morale goes down. You can easily end the season at 5-7. I don't think 4-8's in the cards. I think you're going to win at least one of these. But the goal is we got to get, if we're Shane Beamer, I need to get to 7-5, 8-4. I think that buys me another year. Maybe it doesn't because of the level of talent that we have. If you got Lenoris Sellers, you have him in his 3rd year. You got Dylan Stewart coming off the edge. these are the guys that you want to build your program around. They're the guys that you told us you were going to build your program around. You've sold us on the vision, and now we haven't been able to see the fulfillment of that vision, all because of this glaring issue over the last few years, being the offensive line. So I don't know if the leash is as long as giving him 7-5, 8-4. I think if he goes 8-4 with this schedule, he does buy himself another year. The goal, though, is 9-3, 10-2. We got to make a playoff. We were about to get there a couple of years ago. We should have been in the playoff a couple of years ago, and we didn't get there. So how do we work this schedule to make that happen? I don't know. It's going to be tough. You got to play at Alabama, at Florida, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas, at Clemson. You're playing Georgia, A&M. A lot of these teams are going to have really good defensive lines. Oklahoma's going to have an elite defensive line. Texas A&M is going to have a good defensive line. Georgia's going to have an elite defensive line. Florida, who knows? They can totally show up and just have an amazing defense, specifically a defensive front seven that's going to cause a lot of pressure on Lenora Sellers. So I really do think, I fully think Shane Beamer's job completely hinges on this offensive line. And they've got not a lot of time to gel together and to figure it out. But if they do figure it out, this is going to be, it's going to be something that I think will be talked about for quite a while around South Carolina, around the SEC, of how Shane Beamer took his job from basically everyone's essentially already calling him fired. They're already calling him done. If he goes from that to, hey, we hit an 8-4 season, a 9-3 season, maybe we've got some more prospects coming up. Recruiting is going to stay in motion, and he works himself back up toward that middle top tier of the SEC, where South Carolina fully believes they should be. It's going to be one of the better stories. I'm still waiting to see it. But I do have belief in Kendall Briles. I have belief in Randy Clemens, and I have belief in Shane Beamer. Again, I know he knows exactly what's happening here. He knows what he's up against, and he knows the standard that he's going to be held against. So he's going to be coaching like a madman. He's going to be coaching like his life is on the line, because it is. So I'm excited to see what South Carolina is going to be this year. South Carolina fans, are you excited going into this year? Do you believe as much as I do in what Shane Beamer can do, or have you already written the season off as essentially a loss? Maybe we'll see what happens, but I'm pretty sure Beamer's done. Tell me how you feel in the comments. Really would love to hear your perspective on things, because from the outside looking in, it's tough to know what y'all think as a whole. If you enjoy the content, please make sure to like and subscribe. We're on the road to 500 subscribers before the football season starts. It is a mammoth goal. It's a Titan goal that I have set. We're still, as of the time of this recording, right around 125, 150 subscribers. So there's a lot for us to get there. But if I know anything about SEC fans, and if I know anything about college football fans, we love our football. And we love listening to people talk about our football. I know I do, and I always have. So if you want to stick along, please subscribe. That would be amazing. And we'll catch you next time here on the Saturday Report.